In this video, I'm going to be talking about the judgment scale. As in all of these scales, by now you know I'm not talking about right or wrong or good or bad. What we're measuring here is whether an individual is using intuition or fact as a basis for how they form opinions or make decisions. Taking a deeper dive into this measurement, we see that people who score on the left-hand side of the scale are going to be more heart-ruled and subjective. They're going to trust their feelings. They're going to use their gut and consider the human element. They're very aware of their own emotions and the emotions of others, following hunches, seeing shades of gray, reading between the lines. On the other end of the spectrum, these individuals are ones that really emphasize their cognitive thinking, very fact-based, rational, logical, common sense, detail, analytical. They're going to base their thinking and their decisions on fact and just be very unemotional, just very comfortable with logic. They're rarely swayed by emotional arguments, and they have a sense that feelings should be left out of the equation. In my experience, this particular scale can be enormously helpful when thinking about the interpersonal dynamics of two or more people. When we have a couple of people who are scoring on polar opposites, we can get into some real challenges where they are just at cross purposes for understanding the thought process behind how they are processing information. So for instance, you would hear a person who scores on the left-hand side as making a comment along the lines of, well, that really hurt my feelings. And they get caught up in that emotional piece, taking things very personally and emotionally. Likewise, you would hear a comment from someone who's very highly objective in their thought processing to say, well, that's just the way it is. For them, it was the fact. It had nothing to do with hurting somebody's feelings. It was just laying the information square out on the table without recognize the impact of how somebody is feeling by hearing or absorbing some of that information. So we really just need to be very cognizant of how we are coming into this conversation and how other people can be perceiving either our strong emotion or the absence of it, and how that's playing into the outcomes that we experience. It's my opinion that more often than not, we really need a balance of looking at things through the perspective of intuition and fact. So if you are an individual who fall really more squarely on one end or the other, it can be very helpful for you to understand what your particular trigger is that tells you that you're leaning too far one way or the other. So for a person who's more intuitive, maybe it's the heart that starts to race or some sort of feeling of getting too emotional. That could be your sign to say, am I really thinking about the big picture? What are the other facts and data points here that I might not be thinking about to give me a more grounded sense of this? Or for a person who scores higher on this scale where they're looking at things very objectively, if you're getting almost too detached or having this sense of somebody being silly or foolish, maybe that's your sign to say, what am I missing that would help me think about this from a more intuitive perspective. So going into the conversation with your own awareness and the appreciation that the other style has value can really reduce, possibly even eliminate the stress that you're feeling and certainly the stress that the other person is experiencing as well.